This video is about ethical character. It is part of a video series called The Keys to Self-Motivation and Free Will. We often lack the motivation needed to reach our goals. For inspiration, we can watch motivational videos.
You are complete right now. You are a miracle.
You are ready and able to do beautiful things in this world.
Never lose your spirit.
Love is the answer.
Be extraordinary. Get grateful for your life.
Decide.
Get to work.
Because anything is possible if you just believe.
Be happy. Starting right now.
This is not a motivational video. It is an educational video. But it is true that to reach our potential, we all need a coach.
We got a date! And I promise you, that date is with Destiny. Let's go pick her up!
Billionaire Oprah Winfrey has the best life coaches, nutritionists, trainers, chefs, and spiritual guides fame and money can buy. Yet she still can't control her weight. A frustrated Oprah said, "I'm embarrassed. I can't believe that after all these years, all the things I know how to do, I'm still talking about my weight. I was talking the talk, but I wasn't walking the walk." Oprah lacks the self-motivation to control her weight. Rather than a large staff of outer life coaches, we need an inner life coach. But to coach ourselves, we need to know the core principles of self-motivation and free will. These principles are given in the philosophy of freedom to those who are willing to make the effort to learn. The only life coach that matters is yourself. In the previous video, we discussed idealistic will. My will becomes an idealistic will when my own idea is the motive. An idea is my own when I select the idea in the conceptual world by means of conceptual intuition. But often we have good ideas, yet we do not act. There are many knowers who know what to do, who may even tell others what to do, but they are not doers. They do not act when they have a good idea. This indicates there is another factor in an act of will that determines whether we will act on an idea or not. We are calling this factor the driving force. For an individual act of will, we must distinguish two factors, the motive and the driving force. The motive is the conceptual factor. The driving force is the perceptual factor in will. The conceptual factor or motive is what momentarily determines the will. The driving force is the permanent determining factor in the individual. The two main factors of an act of will are the motive and the driving force. The motive may be a universal concept or an individual concept. The universal or pure concept is more of an abstract universal principle like do good. The individual concept is an idea that refers to something specific that can be perceived. For example, an individualized concept of do good becomes help Mrs. Johnson cross Elm Street. Before we act, we set a momentary goal or purpose of the action. This is the motive. But an act of will is not the result of an idea alone, but is also influenced by the driving force. The driving force is our character. Our character is the enduring factor that is built up over time. An act of will, then, is not the result of a concept or an idea alone, but is also influenced by the individual makeup of the person. This individual makeup we will call the characterological disposition. The way in which concepts and ideas affect a person's characterological disposition gives his life a particular moral or ethical character. Every day we have ideas of what to do. Whether we act on them or not determines our ethical character. We only act on an idea if our characterological disposition adds the driving force to empower the action. The early makeup of our characterological disposition is determined by genetics and the child's environment. Surprisingly, decades of research has shown that the genetic makeup of a child has a stronger influence on temperament and personality than parents, home environment, and other life experiences. Genetics has an even stronger influence on intelligence. Some are born with the disposition to be outgoing, while others are more withdrawn. Some are born to be more fearful, while others are risk takers. Genes can influence our sociability, creativity, curiosity, and whether we are leaders or followers. Some of the environmental factors that influence our character are ethnicity, family, gender, culture, nation, and religion. Because of genetic and environmental determinism, some believe that free individuality is not even possible. They say we are not free because all we can do is express the genetic and group characteristics that have formed our personality and character. As we move through this video series, we will learn how to overcome the control of these determinants to become free individualities. I will give examples of the influence of these determinants by telling a simple story of three individuals who are given the same motive but act differently because they have different characterological dispositions. We will call them Bruno, Kyle, and Jack. In the first case, the motive will be an individual concept. In the second case, the motive will be a universal concept. The first story begins with a government decision to make college free for everyone. The motive that enters the mind of Bruno, Kyle, and Jack is the specific individual concept of enrolling at State U, since tuition is now free. The idea of attending State U is the motive, and now each of their characterological dispositions will determine if Bruno, Kyle, and Jack will act on this idea. The makeup of Bruno's characterological disposition is the result of his disadvantaged background. Bruno was raised in poverty by his single mother, who was often not at home. His life experience is from learning how to survive on the streets in his dangerous urban neighborhood. Bruno also inherited a vulnerability to stress genetic factor that made him nervous, jumpy, and easily irritated. This amplified the stress of his harsh environment. To survive, Bruno values street smarts. Street smarts is not taught in school, so Bruno's experience of school is boredom and truancy. The makeup of Bruno's characterological disposition did not drive the motive to enroll at State U. Bruno did not go to college, even though tuition was free. Kyle's characterological disposition was formed in his middle-class family and safe neighborhood. Kyle has always been withdrawn due to his genetic makeup. His introspective nature put him in touch with his feelings. Kyle's parents and sister went to college, but Kyle lacked confidence. He believed going to college would be too difficult. Kyle remained undecided until he heard about the free tuition. This would make it easier on Kyle's sensitive disposition, so he was motivated to enroll at State U. Jack's father was a self-made business success who taught Jack the value of hard work. As a child, Jack had a paper route and mowed yards for spending money. He inherited a need for achievement like his father, for Jack was genetically predisposed with the disposition to be a leader. Jack knew he needed an education to achieve his business goals and was planning to work his way through State U. So the fact that tuition was now free didn't influence his decision to enroll at State U. Jack had the disposition to welcome the challenge of college regardless of the difficulty. The motive to enroll at State U lacked any driving force for Bruno because his experience told him that school has no value. The motive to enroll at State U gained drive for Kyle because tuition was free, making it easier to go. Jack was already driven to enroll at State U so he could prepare for a career. Now let's tell another story using a universal concept as the motive. The motive we will use is the universal ethical principle of serve your community. All three boys decided to act on this principle, but each in his own way according to the makeup of each one's characterological disposition. Bruno's experience of community life is that most of the time it included illegal drugs. There was always a need for drugs in the community. Bruno was driven to act on the motive of serving the community by selling drugs, where he also earned money to give to his mother. Kyle lived in a wonderful community, but he felt bad that others were socially disadvantaged by growing up in poor neighborhoods. Kyle felt compassion for the disadvantaged because of his sensitive nature. He acted on the motive to serve the community by organizing demonstrations to demand social justice for the disadvantaged. Jack's experience was that success depends on hard work. Jack was driven to act on the motive to serve the community by using his business skills to create jobs, so the disadvantaged could work their way to success. Starting with the same motive, different people will act differently, depending on the makeup of their character. Given the same principle to serve your community, Bruno became a drug dealer, Kyle protests for social justice, while Jack creates jobs. At this basic level, Bruno, Kyle, and Jack's ethical character is determined by how their established character reacts to a proposed principle or idea. In the next video, we will learn how we can apply this knowledge of the motive and the driving force to our life in a self-motivating way. The next video is called The Motivated Idea.